Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's Coffee with Dr. Tom. I hope you've got your coffee. Mine is iced today because we are currently in Costa Rica. But I'm excited, really excited to talk to you about this when I get off on bringing stuff to people that is like, what? What? And today there are three things I'm going to talk about, three bullet points that I hope will expand your comfort in dealing with this current situation. Some of the information is not great, but once you know what to do, which hopefully makes it a lot more empowering for you. So the title today is The Microbiome, from kitchen cabinets to bed sheets to skin to your gut. Boosting the environmental immune system. Have you heard of the environmental immune system? That means around your environment. And what kind of an immune system is that? That's what we're going to be talking about today. Looking forward to this. And I'm going to start off with what I often say, well, not often, I've said for every one of these. Prevention is the ultimate principle of wisdom. To cure a disease after it is manifested, or forging a weapon after the war has begun. To cure a disease after it is manifested is like digging a well when one is thirsty, or forging a weapon after the war has begun. Yeah, let me just slow down a little bit. I've been working for the last 4 hours, changing most of the presentation after seeing the things that I've just seen. This, for example, our coffee number 3 was to D or not to D. But a new study came out for those of you that did attend that coffee. But if you haven't taken any action on vitamin D, whatever that means for you, this study just came out last week. And patterns of mortality with COVID-19 and vitamin D. This is an Indonesian study. And they said when controlling for age, meaning didn't matter what age they were, or for sex, or other health conditions that they had, that's what comorbidities are, like you've got diabetes or high blood pressure or something like that. Vitamin D status is strongly associated with COVID-19 mortality outcome. What did they show us? This is the graph. They looked at 380 people who had died in the hospital with COVID-19 diagnosis. And comorbidities, meaning they had other conditions, well, yes, they did. 85% of them had some other condition, which is what we've been talking about to address these things at home, like diabetes and high blood pressure and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and the little things you can do every day right now to reduce your risk. But look at that last one, vitamin D status of those that died. If they had normal levels of vitamin D, only 4% of people who died had normal levels, but 49.1% had insufficiency, and 46.7% had complete deficiency. What does that mean? It means if you're low in vitamin D, 95% of the people who died in the hospital were low in vitamin D. 95%. That's like wake-up call. I saw that and I said, I had to bring that in here today. In the last coffee I had with you, I showed you this study that just came out 2 weeks ago from the Journal of the American Medical Association, looking at over 5,700 patients in the hospitals in New York. And those that had comorbidities, meaning they had other conditions going on, 57% had high blood pressure, 11% had coronary artery disease, 7% had congestive heart failure, 9% with asthma, 42% with obesity, that means a body mass index over 30, and 34% with diabetes. Those are the things that put you at risk that you may eventually have to go to the hospital and that you may have severe complications in the hospital. And what did they tell us in that study? I'm reminding you once again, with the vitamin D, that if you're insufficient, you're 7 times more likely. I'm sorry, let me say that again. The people that died with COVID-D were 7 times more likely to have insufficient vitamin D and 10 times more likely to be deficient in vitamin D compared to the people that didn't die. So who in their right mind would not be checking their vitamin D levels? This was a JAMA article summary that I wanted to say that those that were put on mechanical ventilation in New York, 88% of them died, 9 out of 10, and they're still doing the procedure for people. But 9 out of 10 people, it doesn't work. Why would you keep doing a procedure that doesn't work? Now, I'm not in that situation, so I really can't criticize our healthcare practitioners, but the results say you guys need to be looking at something else to add here right now. So it's like, what? Vitamin D? Yes, vitamin D. And everyone should be going to their healthcare practitioner and get a blood test done and for vitamin D. And if you can't get to a healthcare practitioner, order it online. The URL's down there. You can order the little finger prick test, and it's very accurate. You prick your finger, put a drop on a card, wait till it dries, put it in an envelope, mail it off to the lab. You've got your results somewhere around 5 days to a week. It's really easy. It's a no-brainer. You should check everyone in the family, not just for COVID-19, but for so many other health conditions, but especially now while we're dealing with this viral crisis. Now to today. I've said in every one of these coffees what my mentor reminded us of in the beginning of March. He said, remember that COVID is a lifestyle disease. It's how we live our lives that determine how we respond to this virus. And if you've been at some of the other coffees, you've heard me say, most people will never know that they were exposed to the virus because their immune system took care of it. You never know. Some people, and the only way you find out is if you do a blood test and you've got antibodies now to the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Some people were exposed, they got a little bit sick, they sore throat, a little diarrhea, they got a cough, maybe they got a little bit of a fever and they recovered within 5 to 7 days. Okay, you need to check out how come your immune system wasn't strong enough to take care of this without you having to call up more troops. Let's get a fever going here. Come on, let's kill this thing. How come your immune system wasn't strong enough to take care of it by itself? That's a lifestyle disease. And then those that had to go to the hospital, about 20% of the people who had some symptoms to begin with, they keep getting worse and they have to go to the hospital. And if they have to go to the hospital, most of the time they've been sent home, breathe okay. Well, those people really need to look at the things we've talked about in these coffees and talk to your healthcare practitioner. Doc, should I get an IV of vitamin C, high dose vitamin C? Because I saw some studies. Or should I check my vitamin D level? Or should I be eating differently? Talk to your healthcare practitioner. But it's a lifestyle disease. And with the lifestyle disease, we've talked about how important it is to get enough sleep. And I've shown you the numbers, 3, 4, 5 times more likely to have a severe complication if you sleep less than 5 hours a night for a week. And this is a great book to read about that. And the blue zones, I've talked a lot about the blue zones, and these are the people, my term is, this is where the pedal hits the metal, that these are the people who are living long, productive lives. And what lifestyle are they doing to produce that kind of, and no, they're not just in the jungles of Costa Rica where Marcy and I are now, living a very simple life. No, these are people living outside LA, in Loma Linda. They found a blue zone there. So you don't have to be in a third world country to live a blue zone life. That's a really good book to read. And then the other thing I've emphasized so much is the rainbow diet and how important it is to have deep colored vegetables and fruits. That is the majority of what you're putting in your mouth every day, are these deep colors, and a little protein and a little carbohydrate if you want, some root vegetables or a little bit of grains, no wheat, but we won't talk about that. But mostly deep colored fruits and vegetables for the polyphenols that are in them, because they do so much to help your immune system. And I'm going to take a moment here. These are the 9 factors of the blue zone that we've talked about many times in the last few weeks, but we're going to talk about 2 of them. Number 7 and number 9, about belonging and the right tribe. So first, about belonging. What do they mean? Belong to a faith community for greater well-being. Blue zone show that belonging to a faith-based community often correlates to the areas of the world where people live over 100. All but 5 of the 263 centenarians they interviewed belong to some faith-based community. Denomination doesn't seem to matter. It doesn't matter if you're a Buddhist or a Catholic or Episcopalian or you study Islam, or if you're an atheist and you believe in nature, but some type of recognition of a force greater than you, and that you belong to a community who shares that with you. That's what they mean by belonging. And research shows that attending faith-based services 4 times a month adds 4 to 14 years to life expectancy. Just read the science on this. And what about the right tribe? The world's longest lived people chose or were born into social circles that supported healthy behaviors. Okinawans created, I don't know how to pronounce that word, moais, groups of 5 friends that commit to each other for life. Research from the Framingham study shows that smoking, obesity, happiness, and even loneliness are contagious. So the social networks of long-lived people have favorably shaped their health behaviors. I've got a group of guys, there are 7 of us. We've been together for about 25 years now. And we used to meet every Thursday night in Chicago, and we moved around the country and around the world. So now with this current situation, we're meeting once a week for an hour or so. You know, we just do a Zoom call. And you've heard me talk a little about Zoom calls and about reaching out to people. And I want to emphasize that now, that we have to be reaching out. We have to be reaching out because we're not loners. You may prefer to be alone, but you're not a loner. And so to elaborate on that, I've been talking for the last few weeks about we're using the wrong language here. We're talking about social distancing, and we should not be talking about social distancing. This is number 2. Number 1 I wanted to talk about today was vitamin D, and just make sure everyone's testing for it. Number 2 is social versus physical distancing. Stop using the word social distancing because it imprints in your mind, completely severing any social relationships. Nonsense. That makes people sick. That weakens their immune system. Physical distancing, maybe that's important right now. There's a lot of people saying it's not, but you know, maybe it is, okay, but that's physical distancing. And if you want to follow that, great, but not social distancing. You need to be reaching out to people. You need to connect. We all need to connect. Who's that high school sweetheart that you haven't talked to in 35 years? Or your best friend on the baseball team that you haven't talked to in 15 years? Just reach out, you know, send an email, make a call, send a text and say, hey, just thinking about you. How you doing here? How's it going during this crazy time that we're in? Socially isolating potentially causes more stress over the long haul, impairs our body's immune system. Strict social distancing sets us up for other illnesses. There are a number of studies on this. Physical distancing with social connection is what we want. Most important, and that's true for your children, whether they're 5 years old or 18 years old. Let them get on and connect with their friends. Let them text, let them do a Zoom call or Facebook Live or FaceTime so they can connect. It's really important in this time when we are isolating that we are not social distancing. We have to be thinking about our well-being, not just being terrorized by some, you know, there's a lot of studies coming out saying now that, you know, maybe this isn't quite as bad as we thought it was, but they're being kind of squashed and suppressed, and not going to get into it here. Maybe in another one we will, but there's no need to be terrorized right now. Be smart. Smart means physical distancing, not social distancing. That's one of the ways you become smart, all right? And here's a paper that came out in the Journal of the American Medical Association 20 years ago. In response to viruses, those with more types of social ties were less susceptible to common colds, produced less mucus, more effective in ciliary, that's the hairs in the nose that move things along, clearing their nasal passages, and shed less virus. That's the magic. Shedding less, because viruses don't reproduce, they shed. and you shed less virus if you have social ties. These relationships were unaltered by the statistics, whether they had antibodies to the virus, what type of virus it was, how old they were, what sex they were, what season of the year it was, whether they were obese or not, their education, their race, didn't matter. Social ties was the strongest indicator to prevent catching the cold, meaning the virus shedding and taking over. Susceptibility to colds decrease in a dose-response manner with increased diversity of the social network. There was an adjusted relative risk of 4.2 comparing persons with fewer, 1 to 3, to those with 6 or more types of social ties. What does it mean? If you're in the lowest category of the number of social ties, 1 to 3 social ties, you're over 400% more likely the virus is going to take over. Your immune system won't be able to stop it. You're going to get the cold. You're going to get the flu. Compared to the people that had 6 or more social ties, 400%. So what's a social tie? These are the social network ties that they're referring to. There's 12 of them. Relationships with a spouse, your parents-in-law, children, other close family members, close neighbors, friends, workmates, schoolmates, fellow volunteers, members of groups without religious affiliations, and members of religious groups. How many of those are we reaching out to in our own worlds daily? Daily. Makes a huge difference that you want to be connecting with others. You know, you want a little kindness when you're talking to people about this crazy time we're in right now. It strengthens your immune system when you do that. It's more powerful than taking a medication. 400% difference in whether or not you get sick after you're exposed to the viruses, depending on how many social ties you've got. 1 point is assigned for each type of relationship, possible of 12, for which respondents indicate they speak in person or on the phone to someone in that relationship at least once every 2 weeks. Right? You don't have to do it every day. Once every 2 weeks. How many of these you have? I think we should reach out every day to somebody new and then have our list that we're connecting with every day. But it's once every 2 weeks. How many do you have? 4? Do you have 1? Do you have 9? That has a lot to do with the strength of your immune system. And here's the graph they put in there, that the white box is the social network diversity high, that they've got lots, closer 9 to 12, compared to the dark black box, meaning they had 1 to 3, and in terms of how many colds, infections, and illness they got. So in the dark box, you see it's over 60%, whereas in the white box, it's about 34, 36%. That's the difference when you have a social network. That's how it affects your immune system. You know, we're always trying to clean up the mess without turning off the faucet, right? So one of the ways you turn off the faucet of an immune system that can't handle it is by having a social network. Please, please, please make it a point to get your social network going. And if you're a jock kind of guy and you don't do that kind of thing, reach out to someone and say, hey, I just heard this thing about social networking strengthens my immune system, you know? So I don't know, how are you? How the hell are you? You know, I mean, just be a guy if you're a guy. And, you know, you don't have to be emotional and wooing all over the place. You know, just connect with others. Will make a difference. Now, let's go to point number 3. Point number 1 was vitamin D. Point number 2 is physical distancing, not social distancing. Point number 3, this is a game changer. In this study, they looked at 30 daily use objects in high touch locations around the home from 17 different houses. And they you know, like you take a Q-tip and you wipe something down, then you put it in a Petri dish and see what grows. They look to see, is there any bacteria? Is there any yeast? Is there any mold? From these 30 high-use items, they found 340 different types of bacteria. High microbial concentration, that means bacteria, molds, fungus, and viruses, were found in the kitchen, with the dish sponge being the most contaminated item, followed by the toothbrush holder. Coliforms, those are a form of bacteria, were most prevalent in the kitchen. Yeast and molds on leather, fabric, porcelain, and laminate, and Staph aureus, that's a nasty bug, on personal and pet objects. The top contaminated object, this dish sponge, contained much more gram-negative organisms, and these are nasty organisms. The third one is called Klebsiella. The most common form is Klebsiella pneumoniae. What does it cause? It causes pneumonia. It gets in your lungs. It weakens your lungs. It's the most common source of pneumonia that people get in hospitals is Klebsiella. Well, it's in your house. The same thing's in your house. It's on the surfaces in your house. Several opportunistic pathogens were also recovered. Addition is noted that objects cleaned with quaternary ammonium-based products had less diversity compared to chlorine-based products, meaning chlorine products don't work so well. And I'll show you why in just a minute. So here is the microbial distribution by household object. So DS on the left is dish sponge, and you can look at the study and get all of these different things they looked at, but you can see dish sponges. That's why you've heard me say before, there's only one thing that a microwave is good for. Put the dish sponge in it every day for 1 to 2 minutes. Nuke it, because when you nuke a dish sponge, you kill everything in it. That's what microwave is good for, is to kill stuff, right? So put your dish sponge in there every day. And we change them out about once every few weeks, but we nuke them quite regularly. And the microbial distribution by location and surface, I mean, look at this, your bathroom, your kitchen, your personal items, your pet's items. That means the collar, the chain to take your dog for a walk, the dog's bowl where you put water in, the dog's bowl where you put food, and then the different type of materials, stainless steel, your sponge, porcelain, plastic, metal, leather, laminate, fabric. What I want you to understand is that your home environment is loaded with bacteria. Loaded. That's normal. That's never going to go away. I'm showing you now the bad stuff that's in your home environment, and I'll show you the good stuff too. But you have to understand, just like your gut, we can't live without bacteria in our gut. We can't live without bacteria in our environment. It's just throughout the environment that we live in. It's everywhere. Everywhere you look, there's bacteria on every, I think, almost on every surface. Now, the percentage of surfaces positive for E. coli or coliform or Staph aureus or yeast and molds. Look at the first one, yeast and mold. 31.7% of any positives were yeast and mold. I mean, that's huge. And then when you hear us talk, if you read my book, You Can Fix Your Brain, you know that mold is a big trigger to one of the 5 types of Alzheimer's called inhalation Alzheimer's. It's what you're breathing every day that you can't tell you're breathing it, but it's getting right through the nose, right up to the brain, causing inflammation in your brain. Your immune system's trying to protect you, and the collateral damage, killing off brain cells. I mean, there's a whole world to that, and everyone should be reading this book to understand of how your environment contributes to how your brain functions. And the book is You Can Fix Your Brain. Just 1 hour a week to the best memory, productivity, and sleep you've ever had. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. So here's the frequency of the different types of bacteria from different objects. And you can see that some of them, you don't see them very frequent, like meaning on multiple surfaces, but you find them in the house. They're there. And in terms of the bacteria in the 5 most contaminated objects, so the first one's the dish sponge, and the most common bacteria on dish sponges is strep. You have strep infections in your house every once in a while. It's all over your house. So when your immune system gets beaten up too much because of all the ding dongs and the soda pop and fried foods that you're eating, weakening your immune system, the strep that's all in your environment, it can take hold, and your immune system's been too weakened by how you live your lifestyle, and now you get a strep infection. You say, oh my God, where'd that come from? Well, it came from the pillow in your bedroom, or it came from the headboard, or it came from the stainless steel on the side of the coffee pot. I mean, this is a whole world that I don't think many people know about, and I'm talking about it for the first time today with a little more focus. I'm going to do a lot more on this topic because it's a huge topic in terms of what weakens our immune system and makes us vulnerable to developing high blood pressure, diabetes, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, asthma, all of the comorbidities that make our current people who are having to go to the hospital much more at risk of dying. And these are the things that set all that up over years of being exposed. And well, I feel fine with my house. My house is clean. I clean my house every day. I would bet you $1,000 will find all kinds of bacteria in your spotless, clean house. I'll show you in just a minute. So the first one is dish sponges. What about the toothbrush holder, or the kitchen sink, or the coffee reservoir, or the pet bowl? You see, all these places are harboring lots and lots of bacteria. That's not all good for us. Some of it's great for us. They're called commensals. They're really good for us, some of them, but many of them are not. And the key is, just like with your gut, you have more good guys than bad guys determines how your gut functions. And you've heard me say about rebuilding the microbiome. You have to rebuild the microbiome of your house. Now, that's a concept that I don't think many people know about: environmental microbiomes, rebuilding the microbiome of your house. And the different types of bacteria on these surfaces. Okay, I did that one. The most frequently present bacteria are ubiquitous, meaning they're everywhere, and they're also found as normal flora on the skin. So it's not surprising to encounter them as the dominant microorganisms in high-touch household objects. They're supposed to be there. They're supposed to be on your skin. Your skin is not sterile. If you had sterile skin, you'd have a mess and have a real problem. That we're supposed to have bacteria on our skin. We're supposed to have bacteria in our organs. I've told you before, if you look at the microbiome of a woman with breast cancer, the breast that has the cancer, the microbiome is very different than the other breast that doesn't have a cancer. Microbiome creates the health or disease of the environment it's in. And the health or disease promoting factors of your home are determined by your environmental microbiome. Now, this is one of these coffees that I hope everyone downloads and orders the slides and the transcripts and the studies so that you read a little of these studies. And some of it's going to be geek for you, but I think this is a new concept for so many people. And you'll see this has been around for years. Scientists have known about this, but hospital-acquired infections keep getting worse and worse and worse. Why? There's no real profit in creating the healthier environment, the microbiome, a healthier microbiome in your environment. There's no real profit in that. It's important to note that they are also considered opportunistic pathogens. These are the bacteria that are all over your home. In addition to numerous other bacteria identified during the study, reported to cause infections in immune-compromised patients. Any of you that had the 3 to 5, 7 days of mild symptoms, you thought you had COVID, you have an immune-compromised patient here, meaning your immune system wasn't able to handle it on its own. It needed more reserves. You got a little sick, and then it called up the reserves, and you're okay. Well, that's immune compromise at a minor scale, but it's immune compromise. And those that had to go to the hospital are severely immune compromised. So the survivability of these bacteria on the surfaces of objects, even after cleaning, could be an issue of concern in terms of transmission to individuals coming in contact with those objects, like your coffee pot. So what do? Chlorine makes it worse. How do we protect our families? So here's a study. Look at the title of this study. Effective elimination of staph contamination from hospital surfaces by a bacteriophage probiotic sanitation strategy. Persistent contamination of hospital surfaces and antimicrobial resistance is recognized as major causes of healthcare-associated infections. We've all heard about these antibiotic-resistant bacteria that are getting worse and worse and worse. This is one reason why. The frequent antimicrobial resistance of the persisting pathogens, that means the bacteria, selected by the pressure exerted by the massive use of antimicrobials in hospitals, further threatens the severity of associated infections, which are often rendered untreatable by conventional drugs. I know this is geeky stuff. I know that. That's why at least go back and watch it again. It'll be on Facebook, it'll be on YouTube. It's free to watch it again and again and again. Go back and watch it again. And then pause at some point, just say, now, what was it that he just said? You know, because I've got too much to go through to explain it in a lot of detail. The control of pathogen contamination, that means bad bacteria contamination, has been approached so far by conventional sanitation, based on the use of chemical-based sanitizers and disinfectants, including chlorine derivatives, triclosan, chlorhexidine, and others. That's what you're using in your home. Although well-intentioned, this approach has been proven to be unable to decrease microbial contamination in a stable way, as it is not capable of preventing recontamination, which occurs continuously due to the presence of inpatients, medical staff, visiting persons, etc. We recently showed that probiotic-based sanitation can stably decrease surface pathogens and reduce antimicrobial resistance and health-associated infections. However, probiotic-based sanitation action is slow and nonspecific. In search for the ideal decontamination systems, we investigated the potential of a probiotic-based system, showing that contrary to chemical-based ones, it can decrease in a stable way the pathogen contamination on hospital surfaces, also leading to reduction in antimicrobial resistant species. Do you understand what they're saying? When they create a healthy probiotic environment in the outside world, it's reducing the antimicrobial resistance bacteria from growing and developing. You're creating more of the good guys in the environment that are supposed to be there, which overpowers the bad guys. They can't get a hold. However, because such a system is essentially based on the replacement of pathogens by probiotics through a competitive exclusion mechanism, its action is slow and gradual and cannot be considered as a rapid means for the eradication of specifically targeted pathogens, but rather as a preventive and stabilizer system. I'm talking to you about creating a preventer and stabilizing system in your homes that will strengthen your immune system like nothing you've ever heard of before. I was blown away as I started reading these studies. I had heard something about it in the past, but as I started doing the research on this, and this one just came out a few months ago, this study, and I said, oh my gosh, look at this. Look at this. This is remarkable. That's exactly what we want in our homes, a preventive and stabilizer system. So although disinfectants can be effective in the immediate abatement of surface pathogens, they result ineffective in preventing recontamination phenomena occurring as fast as 30 minutes after you wipe it down, which are ultimately responsible for pathogens' persistence. You wipe down a room with chlorine, but it's in the air. The bugs are in the air. So you wipe down a surface, some bugs fall right back down on the surface once the chlorine's evaporated, and they start colonizing again. Conventional chemical-based sanitations do not prevent recontamination and can select drug-resistant strains, resulting in over 50% of surfaces persistently contaminated. You can't wipe away bacteria. Please, 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 let's get this through our heads, because we've been raised to believe, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. And right now it's a good idea for hand washing, touching surfaces that others have touched. That's a good part of physical distancing. But we've had parents who have been using antibacterial soaps at home for years. They were raised with them because mom was using them, and you're creating more problems with these kinds of soaps. Several studies have shown that at least half of all hospital surfaces are inadequately sanitized by use of chemical germicides. A number of studies are showing this. Clostridium are indeed surviving for several months on environmental surfaces and contaminate about 75% of rooms hosting infected patients. And have you heard of C. diff infections that kill people and severe diarrhea? That's Clostridium. And up to 75% of the rooms in hospitals have this on the surfaces. So you walk to the bathroom in your hospital room, you grab the door handle, you got Clostridium on your hands. And this is happening again and again and again. Disinfectants can select resistant microbial strains against the disinfectant itself, and also, more importantly, against antibiotics, as recently reported for chlorhexidine, which they use in hospitals, and resistance against colostrum, which was the antibiotic in 2016 as a last resort for antibiotic-resistant bacteria. But there's more Clostridium in the room, and it makes the bacteria in the room develop resistance against the last antibiotic-resistant drug, the last resort drug that we have. Because of the environment, they're identifying the mechanism of how these antibiotic-resistant bacteria are taking over and why. I think it was 1986 or 1988, and in Chicago, I was in Chicago at the time, and the first newspaper article came out, a child died of antibiotic-resistant bacteria in a hospital. First one in Chicago. Next year, there was like 300. The year after that, 3,000. Every hospital had them, and then I just lost track. But just rapidly, antibiotic-resistant infections in immune-compromised people became a thing. It wasn't a thing until somewhere in the 80s. It was extremely rare. The system, named Probiotic Cleaning Hygiene System, and including 3 bacillus species, were tested in 10 different hospitals in Italy and Belgium, both by simultaneous comparison of wards treated by the Probiotic Cleaning Hygiene System and conventional disinfectants, and by sequential pre to post, meaning check them before and check them after treatment, of surface bioburden in the same wards treated sequentially with both systems. So they compared the standard way of sterilizing a room from bad bacteria, and then they did probiotic cleaning hygiene in the same rooms. What did they find? The results collected in over 4 years in 10 different hospitals showed that the probiotics system stably decreased the presence of pathogens on treated surfaces 90% more than conventional cleansers. You know, Marcy sends me gifts once in a while, and there's this actress, I don't know who she is, but the gift goes, boom. You see this, 90% better than conventional cleansers, boom. I rest my case, right? I rest my case. 10 hospitals, 4 years, boom. When would we not want to be doing this? And how come nobody's talking about this? You know, I just read these studies in the last couple of weeks. I'm going, oh my God, I didn't know this. How come nobody knows this? And we keep working on the gut, the microbiotic environment of our gut, forgetting that we're part of the planet. You know, and I've talked about, my friends have talked about how Mark Hyman talks about regenerative agriculture is a way to save the planet. Rebuild the microbiome of the soil. Because when you rebuild the microbiome of the soil, in just a few years, you can completely change all of the effects of climate change. Read the science. It's like, but that really makes sense. Well, I'm talking about rebuilding the microbiome of your house. You live in the house. Live in a sterile house that's full of pathogens, try to be healthy. You get this. I'm hoping everyone's going to go, oh my God. And don't take my word for it. Get these studies and read it for yourself. These data showed that a sanitation system based on the principle of competitive antagonism between good and bad bacteria can be highly effective in reducing and maintaining stably low the level of dangerous pathogens in hospital environment. In Marzi's words, boom! And not just hospital environments, home environments. So here's a graph from that study over 4 months, seeing how Staphylococcus, the blue one, which is a nasty, and Enterobacteria, the orange one, how they drop over 4 months with the probiotic system of changing the environment in hospitals where the really sick people are. Probiotic strategies may significantly advance efforts towards reducing infections in hospitals and likely in other environments, home care, breeding farms, etc., thus deeply improving health sustainability. No one's ever talked about this before that I know of on a big scale. So let's bring this up in conversation. This might be a topic that you reach out and touch someone with, you know, the social, reconnecting social networks for you, as opposed to physical distancing. Develop your social networks. You might want to talk about this. Send them the link to this Facebook page and say, hey, go listen to this. It's pretty interesting. You know, there's bugs all over the environment. I'm looking at the lampstand there, you know, and when you turn the light on, you're grabbing the handle, there's bugs on the handle. That's just how it is. That's part of nature. It's not like, ooh, ooh. We need to be in harmony with the world around us. You don't want to live in a neighborhood where there's drug dealers on the street and people are afraid to go outside and walk around. That's what some of our homes are like because we're trying to sterilize them. And it's dangerous being in the home because there's so much of the bad bacteria. Any of you that got sick during this current viral thing that we've got, even mild sick, you need to change the probiotic environment of your home, the microbiotic environment of your home. Almost, I can't guarantee it, but I would strongly suspect that you'll have a world of difference in the health of your family over the next 4 months to a year when you focus on the probiotic environment of your home. These are the products that Marzi and I are using right now. There's a company that produces these things. These are the things. These are the kind of products that are used in the hospital studies. And this one, Breathe, I always travel with this. And every morning when I get up, take a shower, shave, do what I'm doing, you know, then I grab this and I just give myself just like that. I got my glasses all fogged up. I don't wear my glasses in the bathroom, right? But I do that. And when I go to bed at night, I brush my teeth, you know, in the hotel room, wherever I am. I then give myself a hit and I always feel refreshed. When I say, oh, that's nice. It just feels good. You know, I can't tell you that I feel it's killing bad bacteria and is dominating over with the good. I can't feel that, but I know it's working to some degree. And this is the one for your skin, you know, and I travel with these. And I'm recommending you all consider them. We'll post a link here that you can go look at this company. I think they're the pioneers in the industry that have dialed down and patented how to produce these probiotics with the bacillus that the 10 hospital study used. They had 3 bacillus. There are 2 in these products, 2 of the 3, but then they've got, I think it's about 25 other probiotics in their products. And I'm just tickled that this is available. And I'm recommending that you all consider exploring this world a little bit more. There are 3 cleaners are all you need to clean everything around you. And so the Breathe and I Clean washers, that's for your clothes. You know, I forgot to put the study in here, and I found this out years ago. Microbiologists, if they check the underlid of your washing machine, if you have a top-loading washing machine, open the lid up. If they scrape the underlid, there's about 1/4 teaspoon of feces average on the underlid of your washing machine. And that ain't all good. And when I read that years ago, and I was wrong to do this, but it was the only thing I knew to do, I take a cup of bleach and I throw it in the washing machine and run a load with nothing else, just the bleach splashing around, killing everything. What I didn't realize was that I was killing the good guys too, right? But I've done that for years, probably 8 years, 9 years, something like that. Throw a cup of bleach in the washing machine maybe once a month and a cup of bleach in the dishwasher once a month. Well, I won't do that anymore. Now I know what products to use for that. But to accomplish the same thing, to create an environment of a healthy microbiome. So 3 premises I talk about today, 3 things. Please, please, please take a look at these. Don't take my word for it. Just kind of explore a little bit. For those of you that have this book, you understand the principle. Just 1 hour a week to the best memory, productivity, and sleep you've ever had. What does that mean? It means you allocate a little bit of time to learn one little thing and you implement that one little thing. Next week, a little bit of time to learn one little thing and you implement that one little thing. You can't do it all at once. Take your time, but stay at it. And what are they? About mortality with vitamin D. How much more likely is a person's going to have a severe reaction to this virus if they don't have adequate amounts of vitamin D. About physical versus social distancing. Reach out and touch someone. And about disinfectants, and that using the standard disinfectants within 30 minutes, sometimes the bugs are right back again. That you can't use the standard chemicals to try to kill life in your home. What you have to do is encourage more of the good life to hang out in your home. That means on your pets, in your pets, and on your kids, in your kids, on your spouse, in your spouse, all around you. Marcy loves that. Okay. Over 4 years, the probiotic development system stably decreased pathogens by over 90% more than conventional cleaners do. You want those results? Get started. Just read a little more and give this a shot. Hit the link that's there for that one and learn about these products. See if they don't just feel right. You know, at the worst, you know what I'm doing every day? I'm spraying some bugs on me that are probiotics. They're good bugs. And I know they're on my skin anyway, so all right, whatever. Maybe it'll help, maybe not. That's the worst, but it's not going to harm you. I can guarantee you that. So you can go back and watch this again and again and again. Pause it and just think about each point. It's free. It's there for you. For those of you that want the transcripts, you want the videos, you want the slides, you want all the studies so you can read the studies. I hope every healthcare practitioner orders this package so that you've got it all. It's at theDr.com /coffee, and you can get it there. I hope you will do a deep dive into this and learn about these 3 things: vitamin D, physical distancing versus social distancing, and reach out to people. The closer to 12 in a 2-week period, the better, and building a healthy microbiome in your environment. And with that, I'd say thank you all for your attention. And I have to change that slide. I'll see you next Monday, same time, same place. Thank you all very much. Bye-bye.